Alright, picking up where I left off. Alright, so on the last video I showed the basics of creating your walls, creating your doors, creating your windows. There are the next step. Again, this would be once you have all of your walls and doors in place, would be populating the inside of your house with different objects, cabinets, sinks, toilets, things like that. Alright, you don't have to make them from scratch. There's instead of the template where you trace them, alright, there is the content browser. So if I click on that, I'll get a pop-up here in a minute. And it'll take a second. Alright, so once it finished loading here, there's a bunch of different catalogs and palettes that you can pull from. And I would suggest, instead of trying to click through to find stuff, so let's say if I go into one of the catalogs, here on the side it has a bunch of different options. Those are more for labels. Use the search function. So let's say I have all my walls, my doors, windows, everything done. I'm going to start working on the cabinets in the kitchen. So if I search cabinet, hit enter, it will then search through all those catalogs and it will populate the list with anything that has cabinet in the name. And you'll have a couple different types of cabinets. You'll see wall cabinets, and then I think they're base cabinets. There's different widths. There are corner ones. So while that's loading, I'm going to click over to the drawing. I'm going to say this corner area is going to be my kitchen. Again, depending on how you have your kitchen laid out, if it would be more of an L shape, if you would have an island or a peninsula, or if you did a simpler, more galley style, where it's just along one wall or two walls, depending on the spacing between them. Alright, so it made a list. Alright, there are base cabinets. Don't use filing cabinets in your kitchen unless you have that many recipes you need to keep. But since I'm gonna do an L shape, I'm gonna start with a corner cabinet. So if I click on that one, it gives me these four options. Alright, these three are all wall cabinets. You can tell that by this little L. That's where, in relationship on the floor, it would be lined up with. So if this is the floor, this is up on the wall in space. Alright, the different numbers, so this says 18 inch, 24 inch, 30 inch. That is the height of the actual cabinet itself. I'm going to start with the base ones first. So the base ones are the ones that go onto the floor. So I just hover my cursor over it. I get these two options of insert into drawing and add to tool palette. I'm going to click insert into drawing. That will go away. It should then load the cabinet and attach it to my cursor in a second. Any second now. There we go. Alright, so it follows my cursor around. I can click to place it, and I can place multiple ones. If I want to stop placing cabinets, I can hit enter, and it will stop kind of copying and pasting. Alright, for those of you that are new to this or don't really have the experience, from the top view, the corner cabinet, I can kind of tell which way it needs to face. The other cabinets, you're going to have to rotate into 3 dimensions to kind of see and make sure you're not putting your cabinet doors into the wall. For a corner cabinet, this angled edge is going to be the side that's going to face out or opposite from the actual corner of the wall. Alright, so I need to rotate this cabinet. To rotate, in the modify toolbar, here's the arrow chasing its tail. That's the rotate button. If I click on it, select the cabinet, I can hit enter, and then I'll pick a point to rotate it around. I'm just going to pick this corner, and then I can move the cabinet around. I could type in the rotation angle, but I can also just move my cursor to the lines. Now if I select the cabinet, I can click on this handle in the corner, and I can bring it up and place it in the corner. Alright, from the top view, it looks super basic. It's a square with a diagonal cut on the one corner. But if I rotate into the 3rd dimension, transport into space here, which catches up to me, get a little bit further. Alright, it has a door already made, has door handle, has recessed toe plate or kick area, toe board. Alright, so there's a lot, and you can actually see the thickness of the walls. When we're working, I'll leave everything in wireframe, but just so I can show you how to change it if you would need to. If I would click on the View tab, then in Visual Styles, here it says 2D Wireframe. If I click there, and it gives me a second, there we go. There's a bunch of different ways of showing or representing the objects. If I go Realistic, my walls will then have color, and then so will my cabinets. Let's say it's butting the cabinet wall right with the actual wall itself, so it kind of blends a little bit depending on which way you look at it. Alright, but for the sake of your computer running smoother, I would try and leave it in wireframe because it stresses the processor a little bit less. And if you ever get out of whack with rotating around the 3rd dimension, come to this cube, hit top, and it should snap right to the top. Alright, let me, down here on the bottom, I'll open up the catalog. I'll put another base cabinet in. Alright, so if I go into base cabinets, the distance it tells me on these, they're all the same height. Alright, this distance is going to be the width of the cabinet itself. And there's a whole bunch of different ones. There's a whole nother page. If I bring them in, works the same way, insert into drawing. I can then click and place. I'll do a couple. And these, especially the normal cabinets, I can't see which face is facing forward. And there'll be nothing more frustrating than you placing all the cabinets, and then when we get a little further down the road, switch to 3D, and then all you're looking at is the back of your cabinet faces. So to rotate into the third dimension, if I press and hold shift, and then if I press and hold my scroll wheel, that's free rotate. Then I can move my cursor and it'll move the drawing around, or orbit it, rotate it in the third dimension. If I let go, then it'll create. So now I know my cabinet doors are on the right face. So I go back to the top here. So if I do rotate, hit enter, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees this way. Then to move, so my handle's over on this side, so I can't just grab the handle and stick it on the cabinet that's there, because then they'll overlap. So I just hit escape to get back to the normal toolbars. Right here is move. If I click move, select my object, hit enter, then I can click and grab it from anywhere. So I'm going to do this corner. I can bring it up and place it. Let me do another one. Rotate 90 degrees. Move. Right, I'm going to put this cabinet on this wall. This side, I remember the right side from the top looking down is one with doors, so I gotta flip this all the way around. So that'd be 90, 180. Move, grab it by the corner, attach it on. Now if I hold shift, press and hold the scroll wheel, rotate around, I can see I have my cabinet doors facing out and not inside the wall. Right, let me go back and I'll do a wall cabinet. More. Do a corner. Alright, so I'm going to do this wall cabinet, insert into drawing, click to place it, enter, escape. Alright, this one, same basis. I already know just from experience that I'm going to have to rotate it. So if I go rotate, pick my corner, rotate it around, I can place that one. And that, with wall cabinets especially, I always like to double check, make sure they're spaced out correctly. Yes, and they are. The other way that you can check it is if I click on a cabinet, over here it'll give me all of the information about it. So the scaling would be adjusting like the overall size, and you can do it in different directions. Tells me how much I rotated it. The important one is going to be your elevation. Sometimes I don't know how students do it sometimes, but because it hasn't really happened to me, but sometimes their wall cabinets, instead of the base of it being on the floor, it's on top of the cabinet that's there. So their wall cabinet is like up above where the ceiling would be. Quick, easy way to double check that is here your elevation. Alright, your elevation should be 0. If it's not, change it to 0 and that'll drop it down to where you need it. If I wanted more wall cabinets, I just add wall in with cabinet, do another search. And then you have all of the wall cabinets. And you have different widths and different heights with the wall cabinets. And a whole bunch of different options. So on these, the first number is going to be your width. And here where it says casework, that's going to be the actual height of the cabinet itself. Alright, so if I'm going to bring 2 different ones in so you can kind of see. Alright, so I'll bring this, it says 36 inch wide, insert into drawing, place. I'll bring this one, 36 inch wide, insert to drawing, place. Alright, they're from the top perspective, they look exactly the same. I'm going to take them, rotate. I'll move. And normally you would check them before you move. I just know how they're going to line up from experience. Alright, so I put 2 wall cabinets in. Now if I look in the third dimension, you can see these are shorter ones, these are taller ones. The top of the height is going to be the same all the way across, or should be the same all the way across. You're just adjusting these heights. The reason you would have different cabinets like these would be if you have cabinets above, let's say, your refrigerator, or let's say you have your sink here and there's a window looking out. Alright, most of the time they're not going to have a sink where you're going to be staring at cabinet doors when you're washing dishes. Usually there will be a window looking outside, or sometimes they'll be looking into the interior of the house. But most common, it will be a window above wherever you're going to be washing the dishes. Alright, along with that, since I just mentioned sinks, if I go home here, let's say I go search for a sink. Say everything that you're going to need is going to be in this library or catalog. And it's searching through a lot of items. There we go. So, bunch of different sinks in here. There's more pages. I'm just gonna pick this first one. So if I go insert into drawing, click to place it. Alright, sinks are going to be mounted in cabinets. So depending on the size of sink, you want to keep that in mind when you're placing your cabinets. If you do all smaller cabinets, putting a sink into it is going to be a hassle, to say the least. So I would suggest wherever you're going to put your sink, do a wider cabinet. I would say a 36-inch wide cabinet at least. I think the biggest goes up to 42. But I bring my sink in, I'll take it, rotate it. Let me make it. It's on a little bit of an angle. Let me get a point. There we go. That's better. So I go move, and then grab it. Place it, and I'll shift it over a little bit to help me line it up. Alright, the object snap, so that green square, if I go down here to this square with the square in the corner, these are all the different object snaps. If I click on this down arrow, I'm going to turn on midpoint, and that will make it a ton easier for me to center stuff up. So the midpoint object snap is a green triangle, and that allows me to center it left and right like that. Alright, now it looks good from the top view. The problem is the sink, when I rotate into the third dimension, is going to be on the floor, because right now the elevation is at 0. So if I rotate, there we go. So sink underneath the cabinet isn't really going to do us much good, so we have to bring it up, bump it up. I'm going to select the sink. I'm going to go here to elevation, and I'm going to go 36 if it selects for me. 36 inches. That'll bring it up. Alright, that should be... Alright, if I look straight on it, that's going to bring it up above the cabinet itself. Alright, down the road, we're going to add a countertop on top of these cabinets, because right now they're just open. So depending on how you want your sink mounted, kind of depends the actual height that you'll bump it up. Alright, so sometimes sinks will be mounted on top of the countertop. There are undermount sinks where it's actually mounted underneath, so the countertop runs, stops, and then the sink is actually mounted below it or underneath of it. So this height we can play around with. I just wanted to mention that you're going to have to get it up off the floor. Alright. So I showed the basics of bringing in cabinets, well, importing anything really, then rotating them and moving them around. This has just about everything that we're going to need. Well, it is going to have everything we're going to need. So if you got super creative in your vellum drawing, some of the stuff that if you freestyled it, you put in might not be inside of these catalogs. So if, let's say, I'm trying to think some of the off the wall ones in here. When we go to add more of the details, the one that everyone always complains about is laying out their TV. So if I search TV and I go too long. You also have to watch with your names. If you misspell something, nothing will show up, or what you're looking for won't show up. And there's certain things that are technically called something different. So I searched for television. This is the only television it has loaded in there, which is like an old school tube TV. So if I insert into drawing, it's very, we'll call it retro. But so they don't have a preloaded flat screen TV. So you can either leave it off, we can make a note. But yeah, no 3D model of modern or new TV. As far as names, the one that I have to remind or explain to everyone. So if I search oven, it will probably give me individual. So it gave me microwave ovens, but then it gave me just ovens where there's no burners on the top. So if I wanted like a oven that has the burners on the top, that's technically called a range. If I go in, it takes a couple seconds. It'll then show me, like here it is, insert into drawing, bring it in there. Then I have a model with burners on the top, knobs on the front, oven door, and then drawer, broiler on the bottom. So just be aware of that. So if you're having trouble, you can't find what you're looking for, Google search and find a different, and see if that can help you figure out what it's called. If I was here, I'm usually pretty good at remembering them. The one, let's say you have an island and you want stove burners on it, but you have a separate oven. The burners themselves are called a hob. That's one that is frequently used, at least somewhat. But there's everything in here, all of your refrigerator, everything like that. And there's even some basic furniture. If I search for sofa, it'll give me, it's very basic sofa and stuff like that, but it's at least in there to help you lay it out. So different width ones. This is a corner for a sectional. I think the other pieces are the modular, so you can kind of build your own couch, or sectional, I guess, with the different sections. So that's bringing stuff in, rotating, manipulating it, moving it around, and you can use that to kind of populate everything. I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to pull up one that I have done previously so I can show you a couple other things. Alright, here is one that I've done previously, just to kind of show you everything that you can bring in and populate. This is more of a final version where it has all these different callouts and tags, which we'll get to further down the road. But let me rotate it. But you can see in the bathroom, I have my sink, my toilet. I have them over here. Bedrooms, you can bring in beds, nightstands. I believe that is a wardrobe. Let me rotate it see it. A dresser with a mirror. And here's my kitchen. Just so you can see. Alright, so I have my wall cabinets. I have my sink. I have some windows in here. Again, if you put a window above your sink, you want to make sure that the window isn't going up or behind the cabinets. To tweak window heights, if I select it, I can come over here and I can adjust the height. So if I was going to make it even smaller, 2 foot. Alright, it'll bring the bottom up. What I can do then, if I scroll down, I can then adjust the head height. If I wanted to drop the window down, if I wanted a little more space, let's say, I don't know, this is going to be dramatic, but I'll say 5 foot. And I'll drop it down that way. So, location will adjust where the window is, and dimensions will adjust the actual size of the window itself. So that's kind of the next steps. Hopefully that helps you out. If you run into any major problems, try and help each other out. If not, ask me when I'm there. But have a good rest of your day.